Hello! Welcome to Bookends, the show not about books. Oh, wait. Technically, it is. It's about three of them that were adapted into it. Three movies.
Wow. I wonder which trilogy we could possibly be talking about in this month of fantasy novels.
It's the only one you can think of.
Yeah. I mean, well, if you're a fan of fantasy, you might think of more, but for most people, this is the one, The Lord of the Rings.
Not The Hobbit.
Not excluded. Yeah. We did not watch the Hobbit movies.
We enjoy making this podcast, but we're not gonna subject ourselves to that.
No.
I've seen them. They're not good. I saw them before I watched Lord of the Rings.
I might watch them just because of Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Don't expect too much from it. But I am Justin, co-host of Not Just Any Book Club.
Wow. I'm Pierce. I'm the other co-host.
Yeah.
So we watched The Lord of the Rings. Justin also sped read the books.
Yeah, just to have an excuse to read this, to watch this.
Yeah, and I read the books before seeing the movies over like a few months. I basically took breaks between each book. Anyways, not important.
Yeah.
So yeah, the movies.
The theatrical cuts.
The theatrical cuts. We did not watch the extended editions.
But we will. I have them on Blu-ray. I have the entire like behind the scenes stuff and all that. I got that for Christmas 4 or 5 years ago and just never watched it.
Yeah, they're also on HBO. If you haven't had a chance to buy one of those box sets.
Which is the best streaming service in my opinion.
Probably.
Yeah.
Anyways, so yeah, Lord of the Rings, one of the most famous fantasy stories of all time, probably the fantasy story, if we're being honest. Introduced everyone to the questing story, the huge created worlds of fantasy, all
Tolkien
of that.
Insane. I've learned some stuff about Tolkien. Basically, he was a cunning linguist. I think he mastered over 8 languages or something like that. You know, Pierce is frothing at the mouth just hearing at that.
if you didn't, I don't think we've talked much about this on here, but I want to learn multiple languages, at least conversationally. So
yeah. He's on German
probably,
right now.
even if I learn as many languages as he did, he probably will be more proficient at them if we learn the same ones or whatever.
Yeah. And I think he helped create. He had a hand in helping create the dictionary, like revising the dictionary. Because I think he went to Oxford.
He actually made the first dictionary in 1910.
Yeah, like revising it. And I think, being a polyglot, he spent over 10 years of his life. I think 20. He never had plans to write a book about this, but he created the languages first to create the world, just languages, and he built the world around the languages and how they would speak, and it's amazing.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of videos on this, from writing your own fantasy story to writing for D&D, lots of people look to Tolkien and this like strategy that he did where he started with the thing that he was interested in and expanded out from there as kind of like, I wouldn't say the gold standard, but like a really excellent strategy for anyone who wants to like create their own world.
Yeah, and this is the gold standard. I don't think it's been rivaled or even it's definitely not been matched. I don't think it's even been rivaled because good lord,
I don't think anyone. It'll be a long time before anyone claims a world stands up to Middle Earth. I think people would claim that some stories have stood up to the Lord of the Rings, but I don't think anyone would even dare to claim that a world stands up to Middle Earth.
Yeah. Also, if you're wondering why Luke's not here, he has famously said that he likes The Hobbit more than Lord of the Rings, the Hobbit movies. More
Infamously said.
Yes, private, but if me saying that makes you hurl, that's why we kind of excluded him out of here.
Yeah, it's not like he doesn't show up to these episodes anyways. The bookends ones typically.
We're banning him.
Just for this episode.
Especially
Luke, you're welcome any other time. All right, so should we just get into it, I guess?
Fellowship of the Rings. We're kind of combining our discussion about the book and the movie together. the theatrical
Yes.
cuts. So if we say that's something to cut from the movie, you'll know why because we watch the theatrical cuts. Come with us for a few more years when we watch it again and we start discussing it. Possibly record it, a 10-year anniversary, not just any book club, where we start discussing not just the RP, not just any book club, and then discuss Lord of the Rings again.
Hmm. So, um, oh, I guess something I also wanted to say was that it also Lord of the Rings really won every award after the third movie came out because they I think you told me it basically felt like they were waiting for like the whole
Yes,
trilogy and then gave
like
Return of the
retroactively.
King every award
Yeah.
retroactively for the whole trilogy. Um,
Interestingly, also the American Film Institute, they only named Fellowship as one of the top 100 of the greatest movies of all time. Um, Supposedly because Fellowship is supposed to stand in for the entire trilogy. Notice how we left out
oh,
the Two Towers in that conversation.
yeah. We'll get to it. So, Fellowship of the Ring. In my opinion, an excellent introduction
Yes.
to Middle Earth. Um, Probably Fellowship and Return of the King for me are very, very close. But I think Fellowship serves beyond anything else as just a really good introduction. The quest like kind of storyline really it's really kind of honed in
Mhm.
this movie and in the book, and it ends up making it feel, before things get too serious, it ends up making it feel really like wondrous, like, oh, there's this whole
Yes.
world out there. And yeah, there's some like scary moments, like with the ring wraith specifically, but like I wouldn't say not scary for us, but scary
Yeah.
for Frodo, thrilling um
For us.
for us, yeah. uh but outside of those moments, it really feels like there's a whole world out here, and Frodo, because he's and the other hobbits, because they haven't left the Shire really, are discovering it for the first time with us.
Yes.
So I really enjoyed this one a
Yeah.
lot. It's a really great introduction.
I would also say that too. It wasn't the case up until the third time I experienced the story, which actually no, technically the fourth, because the first time I ever watched Lord of the Rings was the first one, the extended editions. Killed me because I was just like so exhausted by the end of it because I had no idea it was like I didn't know the time, so it was like it's a 4 hour movie. I didn't know that at the time, um, but then watching the movie, I'm like, okay. So the first time I watched this movie, I didn't like it that much. I'm like, and then and then the later movies kind of changed that opinion, but I almost just didn't watch the rest of it because like, you know what, One of the Rings is overrated. But
That's your fault for
I
like going into the 4 hour
okay,
extended edition without knowing anything about Lord of the Rings.
yeah. I suggested to Pierce. Pierce was asking me, it's like, should I watch the extended editions first? I'm like, don't do that, because I did that bad times. And then I watched the movie again, the theatrical cut. Um, and I actually enjoyed it, but enjoyed enough to continue for a few days because I had so much. And I think this was like during my spring break. I was just staying home, so I I enjoyed it. And then but like didn't think it was anything amazing, anything special. Then I read the books, then really enjoyed it. After I read The Hobbit, by the way, The Hobbit's great. The book is great. We didn't mention the book, but I really enjoyed it. And then watching the movie again, greatly appreciated the movie more. So that's my come around moment to Fellowship. I just really like how everybody's slowly introduced, and it just feels like there's a lot of history that it's kind of alluded to, even in the book. I know this is an appendices and everything, but like I didn't know how much of it was fully realized in the story. That's kind of a weird statement, but like yeah, like there's so much history rich, and it's kind of alluded to up until maybe my least favorite chapter is the info dump when they get to
Mhm.
the Fellowship. But other than that, great stuff.
I thought that info dump was handled a lot better than the info dumps in the Two Towers, to be honest. But I also really don't like the Two Towers. So,
Yeah.
um, so anyways, so to compare the movie and the book, I guess like the Fellowship, it's obvious that this is like an abridged version of a much longer book, right? I think
Yeah.
at times, like as knowing what's in the book, um, but it doesn't feel like too much important stuff is cut out in this one.
Yeah, I think this
They
is the
they
most
didn't have
intact.
have to sacrifice too much.
Yeah, I don't remember what was. I wish I wrote down the notes.
Off the top of my head, that one
Tom Bombadil is
Tom
cut.
Bombadil cut.
Um,
I actually know why. Do you know why?
because they didn't want to take away from the effects of the
Yeah,
mystique of the ring.
yeah. I think I
Um,
talked to you about this
yeah.
before.
Even Tolkien doesn't have an answer because he was like, every world has a mystery, and what does Bombadil have? We don't know. I don't know. You figure that out. Which I I can appreciate the change. I could see that why that would throw off the pacing in the movie because oh boy, that would be just pacing wise. That was kind of a weird chapter. I mean, I enjoyed it, but like I was like, wow, this is going on for a little bit too long.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Um, yeah, like off the top of my head, that's like the main thing that I can remember, just because like the fans make such a big deal out of it more than anything. Not even
yeah.
because it actually like
He was
is
supposed to have
that important.
like a cameo in some of the movies, but like they never casted him because like it wasn't worth it.
They're like
I'm like,
Tom Bombadil.
still,
He's
yeah.
just like there.
It would. I mean, yeah. I mean, it.
He's just hanging out in Mount Doom. Like
Yeah. I I don't know. I can appreciate the change because
Mhm.
you know, sometimes book to movie and the pacing as I'm pretty sure this is more evident in the Two Towers than Return of the King. But like the way that the book is written is that it backtrack once the Fellowship diverges, they just cut back. Instead of the movie where they intercut in between just to keep the momentum, the
Mhm.
books they tell the entire story and then they cut backwards again, which
Yeah.
I can appreciate the movies doing that because that would have been really awkward.
Well, they tell it. You you don't really know exactly what if it's what time because you don't know exactly if the things that that Frodo and Sam are
Hmm.
doing is happening at the same time as the other group. You assume
Yeah,
it's like similar, but it's
yeah,
like days pass at random intervals and whatever.
yeah,
Um, but in the movie, it kind of like it's probably as chronological as you can get. Um,
yes,
I also think we should bring up Elijah Wood and Ian McKellen. Honestly, this is Elijah Wood's breakout role, and I could not imagine a different person
yeah.
in the role of Frodo
I,
Baggins.
I, yeah. I think he's probably the face of the film. Like, I don't,
Hmm.
I can't imagine anybody else. I don't even think it was in the running for the top one because they were looking for someone with an accent, and I don't think there was a set rule on the accents or like the interpretation of it. So he kind of put on his own. I don't even know how to describe it because it's different from everybody else. Because I
Yeah,
Samwise has an Irish accent. It's not consistent within even within the Shire, but I think it works really well because
that's actually not true, I
oh,
believe. I believe Sam has a West Country accent,
mm,
which is like Cornwall and up close to Wales. Um so that
mm,
sorry. I believe that's the accent that they use for the most part. Is a now it's of course because it's in that part of South Britain, it does have some Celtic similarities because Welsh and Cornwall, I believe, the cultures there were originally part of the like Celtic group, Irish, Scottish, Welsh, etc.
yeah,
Um, but it doesn't. It's not. It's different from Irish.
yeah. I
Sorry.
yeah, dude, just whatever he said. Yeah, and I don't know. I can't pinpoint where. I mean, you're probably now the expert on this. Where Pippin and Mary's accents are, because I think they're a little bit more distinct from Sam's. So
It is. It is. Cause the thing is like I believe what I heard is the most influence came from the West Country accent, and the person who I heard that from pointed specifically
Mhm.
to Sam. So I wouldn't be able to pinpoint the rest of them or even tell if he was telling the truth because I'm not a master of the West Country accent. I just know that I heard when he when he said it and then showed it to me. I was like, oh yeah,
Yeah,
that does sound similar.
Yeah.
Anyways,
But Elijah Wood, what a great guy. I think even like his physicality, like his
mhm,
big blue eyes, just like that's definitely something that would be his big blue eyes really help you sympathize with him. Make him seem, because I'm assuming that the way that Tolkien wrote him was supposed, like, he was supposed to look innocuous, like he's not really well experienced in the world, and I think Elijah Wood's big blue eyes.
yeah,
I keep on saying that, just gotta hone it in. That it helps really sell the idea that he's experienced the world wide eyed.
yeah.
So
Well, one of the major complaints about Elijah Wood is as a choice is because he was so young at the time, and Frodo is actually supposed to be
yeah, like 33, something like that.
yeah, like a full adult. Like he's been an adult for a while or something, I think. Um or maybe not, because I know adulthood in Hobbitville, Hobbiton is a different age. But anyways, he's supposed to be a little bit older than Elijah Wood was at the time.
Mm,
And so it's kind of like um but I also believe Tolkien wrote him to make him like pretty uh youthful in that he's like naive. So I think that casting a younger actor and making Frodo a little bit younger for
mm,
this role probably was for the better. Just because of the way that you write him in the book is going to be different from how
mm.
audiences look at him when they can actually see him with their eyes.
Yeah.
So it was probably a good move for the adaptation to make Frodo a little bit
Yes.
younger.
Um, cannot imagine anybody else in his role.
Yeah,
And the entire, because I think it's safe to say that Frodo is the protagonist of the series,
yeah.
which I think was a subversion of, like, I guess, fantasy, or like I know that Tolkien didn't invent fantasy at the
I
time.
think it's a subversion of like what you would expect for this
Yeah,
like
you would
grand
expect
epic.
Aragorn to be
Yeah.
the hero.
Hmm.
So it was a subversion of that. Um, and I think Elijah Wood did a really good job. I don't think there's a weak performance in the entire thing. Um,
No,
no.
no, I don't think
Uh,
so.
and I can't imagine different cat, because, like, what is it? Apparently Liam Neeson was supposed to be a Boromir. Sean Penn was supposed to be either Gandalf or Saruman, and I can't imagine Sean Penn. And
Jake Gyllenhaal
wait, what's
auditioned for Frodo.
oh god,
Yeah. um, Ian McKellen as Gandalf was also perfect. I would say the I who I would point to is like the big three like drivers of the story. Obviously, like other characters are important, like Sam and everybody, but the big three are Frodo, Gandalf, and Aragorn. Right? Like
mm,
those are the three I would main leaders of the Fellowship. I guess you could say, and those three are casted perfectly. There's no one else I would want for
yeah,
those three roles. While we're talking about perfect casting, I know he's. I don't think he's. Oh, he's in Fellowship a little bit. Saruman also casted perfectly for the
mm,
way that the book describes him. Christopher Lee,
yeah.
the the
He's an
the
awesome human being. I don't know if you
the
know the trivia about
I
him.
yeah right I yeah, but the book focuses so heavily on like how intoxicating his voice is. Christopher Lee's voice is just perfect.
Mm.
Like it's amazing.
Holy cow, he's 6'5". Sorry. Yeah,
Yeah, the movie is like real like the casting is pretty perfect across the
yeah.
board, I would
I think
say.
Christopher Lee was almost essential, because, like, he's the only person that could have that actually has met J.R.R. Tolkien um
Mhm.
in person, and I think he also read Lord of the Rings yearly for 50 years. I think he also fought in World War One. I think he was also the inspiration for James Bond to Ian Fleming. So yeah,
He was mad about something that happens with Saruman, which we'll get to in
um,
a few minutes.
yeah, we're a little bit mad about that too.
Yeah,
In the
yeah.
theatrical cuts, at least.
In the
Yeah,
theatrical cuts because we haven't seen the extended cuts. But yeah, so casting's pretty much perfect across the board. I felt like we had to talk about that because
yeah,
it's I c- when you read Lord of the Rings now, you imagine these people. Like that's how good these castings are.
yeah.
Um,
Um, I mean, okay, I guess we could. I mean, just like everybody else, Viggo Mortensen, who played Aragorn. I know we want to move on, but he's trilingual in English, Spanish, and Danish, and he actually requested to have the script be revised and have Aragorn speak more of his lines in Elvish because he could speak those languages.
Mm.
Also, fun. Everybody loves to bring this up, but fun fact: in the Two Towers, when he kicks the helmet, he actually broke his toe doing that.
Yeah, 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 it was like it was very real scream
Yeah,
afterwards because he broke his toe.
yeah.
Everyone brings that up, so like most people probably know that, but it's actually the reason everyone brings it up is because it's very interesting.
Gimli, the actor who's playing him, Gimli's the dwarf. He's 6'1" in real life. That's another interesting fact. And then Orlando Bloom, who plays Legolas. I think that may be arguably the weakest casting, but like he doesn't have that many lines in the Fellowship at least. I don't think he has an arc, does he? I think he's my least favorite character. If I had to choose one, would be Legolas because he doesn't have anything that's super distinct. But the arc is, I think, him getting over his prejudice with the Gimli, the dwarf,
Mm.
which is cool. But yeah, we could talk about how they built the sets because like I don't think a movie like this could be made today. I think everybody says that. Filmmaking has changed rapidly ever since this movie has come out. I don't think many studios would be willing to take the risk to make such an expansive series. Um, this movie was very tumultuous to make. Like the development, I think it's been in development since like 1960s. I think the Beatles were actually attached to it. Um, and with Stanley Kubrick directing, and then I think they also made an they made an animated movie, which was condensed Fellowship of the Ring and Two Towers into one. Um, and it made its money back, but it wasn't enough to warrant a sequel. So Ralph Bashiki, who made it, just never made a sequel. So it just leaves on a cliffhanger. I've never seen it, so whatever. And I think also general perception of Lord of the Rings at the time was that this was just another children's book because fantasy was perceived that way. Um, Even though it's not because we know its influence. We know that Led Zeppelin is a huge fan, or Jimmy Page at least, whoever the lead singer is. I'm not a big Led Zeppelin fan, sorry. He uses a lot of references to Middle Earth into his music, which is good for him. I like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, I said a lot of nothing, but let's go back to Fellowship of the Rings. I don't know. We're yeah. I don't. Do you have anything to say about it, like to get the ball rolling here?
About
Um,
sorry, about what? About
Fellowship of the Ring. Just movie slash book because we're
just
talking.
anything about it? I mean, like we've been talking about it. I don't know. It's like um I think the biggest thing with Fellowship of the Ring is that it has to be an excellent introduction to
Yes.
the world more than anything. And so like the quest is introduced, the danger of the ring is introduced, obviously the world is introduced, and we're
Mhm.
introduced to like our 7 or 8 members of the fellowship. Um 8 members because it's
Nine.
four.
I
No,
thought
because
this,
it's four hobbits and then
and then
Gandalf and then
but
the
Boromir
three.
dies.
Boromir
So
dies.
yeah,
Yes. Spoilers for uh
Fellowship.
a
Are you
very
listening?
old book. Um
Yeah.
Um, but yeah. So not so that we're introduced to the 9 members of the Fellowship, and then we're introduced again to the danger of the ring in Boromir. Um, so yeah, uh, I mean, it succeeds at that, and that's like really the main thing to talk about
Yeah.
is the world building in this book,
Yeah.
and in the movie.
Yeah. In case anybody didn't know, this was supposed to be one volume, just this entire thing, but they cut it up to three. I don't remember why they cut it up to three. I think it was just because it was more cost efficient to print 3 books out rather than one gigantic volume that was like 1,500 pages or something like
Hmm.
that. Which I guess that's how it's remembered today. Um, I think it's really cool that we got a trilogy out of this and a movie like this was made. Um, Probably won't be seeing it again in our lifetimes because
Nothing is acclaimed as this.
yeah,
Like this was groundbreaking at the time.
exactly.
So so we might get something I would say even if we got something of similar quality, it wouldn't be groundbreaking and thus wouldn't be as acclaimed as
They
this
tr-
is.
they tried to do it with The Hobbit. Didn't happen. I also love that the fact that this movie really emphasizes set building and practical effects and camera illusions. Like it barely uses CGI. It uses it very scantily, except for Andy Serkis, well, Gollum or Schmeagol. Um, it uses it very sparingly, and I think it works better for that. It doesn't date the film. I think practical effects are the way to go, even if it looks a little bit worse, because again, that's what makes it timeless. I, I did try to pay more attention to Gimli because now after learning that he's really tall, I'm like, because they barely have him in the same shot as him as everyone else because they're trying to hide his height, so they usually either have him shot from the back or just not in the same shot, like kind of not in the same shot. Like there are a few shots with him, but it's very noticeable that the bottom is like cut out or he's just staying behind something or something like that. So yeah, that's I do try to pay attention to more practical effects because I know that
Yeah.
they kept integrity. um but I thought that it was very excellently designed. I think this was spent like 2 years in pre-production. I think even more. And they had the passion on display was just like it's very evident.
Yeah.
Um,
I'll say real quick for the whole series, we haven't said anything about this. The score is perfect.
oh,
It's
Howard Shore, thank
so
you.
good.
It's so good. Really transports you back to like to make it. It really sells the idea that this is Middle Earth, and I don't think
Yeah.
Howard Shore has made anything. I'm not sure why he hasn't become synonymous with like John Williams or why can't I think of it? Whoever did Hitchcock stuff. Sorry, Howard Shore.
The other
The
guy.
other guys. That's the yeah. The famous film composers that I can't really name of for some reason. But I don't think he has made anything else of note besides this. He did the score to Spotlight. The score was really bad in that. What happened? What happened?
He did The Aviator by Martin Scorsese. He did Peter Jackson's King Kong. He
Which
did The Departed for
The
Martin
Departed.
Scorsese. And then he did some stuff for Cronenberg in 2007.
I probably that
And
one.
some more stuff for Scorsese. He did Hugo. I mean, he's done some stuff and he's been nominated for quite a few things.
Hmm.
I think he's probably like the next tier down after,
Yeah,
I would imagine, is what he's going to be looked at as under
yeah.
like the John Williams and um no,
Why
I'm
can we
trying to think of another composer.
Hans
Uh
Zimmer? Hans
yeah,
Zimmer.
Hans Zimmer. Yes, yes, that's who I was trying to think of. Like it's going to be like Hans Zimmer, John Williams, and then like the next tier down is
We're really bad when it comes to this stuff. Why can't I? Yeah, whatever. Bernard Herrmann was another one. Michael Giacchino. All right, okay. Now we're getting off track.
okay.
Soundtrack. It's great.
Yeah.
Really, really it sells everything because there are times when the movie really rests upon having the score, and it does like give it a more grandiose feel.
Yeah. Lots of like the shots I honestly remember the most are like the pan like shots that are panning as like there's this like song in the
Mhm.
background. It sells it, I would say. Uh the cinematography is obviously really good, but I would say that the score like sells it. Like
Yes.
it really that's what transports you into Middle Earth more than anything else.
Yeah. I think that you're right on the money with that. I think that it's just it's excellent.
Yeah.
Um, I I mean, do you have anything specific you want to talk about the story or anything?
Well, that's kind of what I was saying before, but
It's
about
an
the story,
introduction.
it's it's an excellent version of this, but it's mostly an introduction into the world and like to
Yes.
what the rest of the movies and books are going to be about.
Yeah. But the prologue though, I think I know we're kind of bouncing back and forth, but the prologue did a really good job of introducing everything.
Hmm.
Um, so and I know that good. I really like how you. I forgot who the actress was. Was it Kate Blanchett? whoever was doing it was an elf in the movie, and I think that it really sells the fact that elves have been here for a while, and
Yeah.
they would be giving the narration on everything because they live forever or they live a really long time. Are they immortal?
In their homeland, I think it's like in their homeland they live forever, but they just live a really long time everywhere else, I
Hmm.
believe. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So something like that. Um, and I think does a really effective job because I again when I was reading the book I wasn't able to gather. I mean I was able to gather why, but again it was a huge info dump as to why the ring was so. I mean I knew that the ring is a MacGuffin. I know there's a lot
Mhm.
of power in the ring. It corrupts everybody, but it really sells like the history behind it, and it condenses it in a way that's palatable to everybody who is watching it. Like, there's no question how important the ring is. It's not told through an appendices, which
Yeah.
you know. Plus, bonus points if you've read The Hobbit, because what is it? When Gandalf is first riding into the Shire, and he just alludes to something about the incident with the dragon. I'm like, now I get it. I get what he's referring to. I was like, yes.
Um, yeah, it's also funny that this is like probably the most famous MacGuffin of all time because every time I hear the word MacGuffin, I think of like a sci-fi story, not of like a fantasy story, which I know they're in fantasy too.
Yeah,
Um, that's just me. I don't know.
I know.
Should we move on to the Two Towers? I feel like it's gonna be the shortest of
Um,
the or do you have anything else you want to say about
N Actually, I don't, surprisingly. I just think that everything's bald. I don't have anything about a specific set. What's the place they go to, where they actually meet the elves? Um,
oh, I the name of the city.
Whatever it
I
was,
don't
it looks really
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Rivendell,
Yes. Yeah, that
Rivendell,
sounds right.
yeah. Rivendell was really well done.
Mhm.
Also, I also like the arc that they give Aragorn. They because Aragorn in the book just knows that he's going to be king. It's like, yeah, I'm going to be king. I'm going to be the rightful ruler. And here they neuter him a bit and they make him more humble, as if he is a little bit ambivalent towards taking the throne, which I think works.
Mhm.
I think it does. Again, because I know that
It's
Tolkien.
also it's also a part of our like modern sensibilities
Yeah,
about like monarchical rule.
yeah,
Whereas like Tolkien kind of, much older than us. The book is a lot older. I mean he fought in World War One, which was fought between empires, right?
yeah,
And like of a very real like monarchy sense empires. So he has probably a much more or a much less negative view of monarchy than we would have today,
That's
and
interesting.
therefore Aragorn is very gung ho about. I wouldn't I wouldn't say like super gung ho, but like he's just like I am the rightful ruler,
Yeah,
right? Whereas now we don't really we don't view it as that
yeah,
nowadays, even in countries who, at the time of Tolkien's birth were monarchies. They don't view it as that anymore. Like
mm,
it's just kind of fallen out of purview in Europe especially.
yeah.
So it makes sense that a movie made in, closer to today would make that change.
Yeah. I also think this speaks for the trilogy as a whole, but I like how they like kind of like emphasize the romance of it. Like we use bro here, because like the romance in general isn't the movie's strong suit. I don't think anyone's going to claim that it's really this is a romantic movie,
I
but
believe there was more in the extended cuts of
yeah,
like romance, but I don't know if it was especially strong there either.
yeah. I think it's this is more about friendship and like it. This movie wasn't afraid to get sentimental and like maybe more intimate because there's a lot of kissing on the forehead. Especially with Sam and Frodo, like they're getting
Mhm.
really close to each other and not like the sexual attraction, but like it's brotherly love. Which
Yeah.
honestly, um, I'm glad that they don't shy away from that because it's like yeah,
I
you
mean,
actually
yeah,
believe it.
The Lord of the Rings is like the D&D story. Like
Yes.
it's literally just like a quest storyline. We have a thing, we're going to take it to another place and destroy it. and maybe we'll help some other people along the way. Like
Yes.
that is and we're a bunch of different people who have a bunch of different abilities, and like we're completely different from each other. And we're coming together to
Yeah.
fulfill this quest. Like this, I obviously it's had a ton of influence over fantasy, but the stranglehold that Lord of the Rings has on Dungeons and Dragons and role playing games is
Yeah.
is kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah. Uh, I can't. It's really hard to think of a fantasy world that isn't influenced by Lord of
Yeah.
the Rings. Maybe Adventure Time. I think that's that's the only one I can really think
But
of.
I think Adventure Time probably is if you really get down to it. And then the reason that it's kind of like less obvious is because they also take a lot of influence from things like sci-fi.
Oh,
Um, so there's lots of other influences. So it might just be less obvious to us without like digging in.
yeah. Um, I think Pierce is a little bit further into Adventure Time than I am. I've been watching it, just saying it. But yeah, I think we've said our say about it. I guess the Two Towers, which
This might be the shortest book to
yeah.
talk about.
Okay, so
Um,
remember when I said I wasn't a big fan of Fellowship of the Ring when I first saw it? When I saw it for the second time, when I saw the theatrical edition for the first time, I kind of dismissed it. It's like, I guess it's like Star Wars for me. I like Star Wars. I'm just not going to be in love with it. Um, and then I watched the Two Towers and was just blown away by. I think it was like my favorite of the trilogy. Even and
ooh,
yeah, but then when I watched for the podcast, never mind. um, there's a lot of wheel turning, and I think even book, I may have liked the book better than Fellowship, like the book version
mm,
of Two Towers more. But um, there's a certain point where it just hits a snag and just gets like there's a lot of wheel turning. I know that the middle of a trilogy sometimes usually has difficulty standing out.
yeah.
In general.
Well, so I kind of complained because obviously I read the books before I watched the movies, but I immediately like I hadn't even finished the Two Towers yet, and I was like, this is not as good as Fellowship. And I would later find out that when I read Return of the King, that I didn't like it as much as Return of the King either. It's just not as good in my opinion. And I complained about it. I asked if other people had the same opinion as I did on a Lord of the Rings subreddit. And I got some mixed comments back about like some people saying it's their favorite and some people saying like um this one guy gave me really good advice where he was like, don't think of it as a part of a trilogy. Like if you think about it as the Lord of the Rings, then the Two Towers is just the middle chapters
Hmm.
where the middle chapters of a really long book have trouble standing out on their own anyways. It's all set up for the climax that's going to happen at the end.
Yeah.
And that makes sense to me, but it's also just kind of like that doesn't make it any more interesting to read or
Yeah.
watch.
Yeah, it not to say that the middle chapter is inconsequential because it does have
Mhm.
ramifications. Even though I do
Yeah.
have a problem with one of it, a major problem with Gandalf coming back to life. Um, I just didn't like how I feel like there should have been more sacrifice because it just feels like that it was just kind of given. I know that it describes the hardship that he went to becoming resurrected.
Yeah. And he's also supposed to be like pretty much like a god, like
Yeah,
basically. Like he's like the wizards in this universe are like gods pretty much.
yeah.
They're crazy powerful beings. So,
Yeah, and he only
it's
becomes more powerful,
yeah.
resurrected. But I don't know. I do think that it was kind of a Deus Ex Machina. I know they explain it more in depth in the books, but like,
Mhm.
it's just like I still wasn't sold on the idea. And then the movie is just like, yeah, I fought this guy for like 1,000 years or whatever, and I'm here. I'm like, come on.
Yeah. Yeah, I
and,
guess.
and I have no idea why I was hiding in the shadows. Like, oh, guys, I'm gonna go pull a prank on my friends. I'm gonna change my voice and just pop out of the woods and have them shoot me. And then, yeah, I'm different now. I'm alive. Which, come on, like I don't know. But again, it's an integral part of the story, so
Mhm.
yeah. And the other part, because I think Gandalf has a lot of plot armor here. I I think this is when he gets to Rohan, I believe. Um, when he meets up with the Theoden. Yeah, when he gets to Theoden, and they tell him to disrar disbar any like weapons, and the guard comes up to him and is like, "Hey, buddy, I know you're a wizard, but you've got to get rid of that staff, that magical staff, because you're a wizard who's super powerful and is powerless without their staff." Um, and then just like, "Hey, this is my walking stick," and just walks in, and immediately everybody, I think Theoden or I think Wormtongue is like, "Why did you let him in with with his staff?" And no one ever asks why. That's my other major problem with Gandalf. I love Gandalf, but like, man,
Yeah.
plot armor. Um, but other than that, I at first I was really sold on the idea of like Helm's Deep was really the pillar of this. Like, I loved
Mhm.
Helm's Deep, and I think Pierce really enjoyed Helm's Deep. I think maybe the highlight of the
It definitely was. It serves as a great climax to the film and
middle
a
part.
great middle part of the book. Yeah, because they tell the Fellowship the like not Frodo story first in Two Towers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Honestly, okay, I wish that was kind of switched around. I wish they told Frodo's part first, and then they told Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas's. That's
I think that would have been a really brave choice because of how the book ends for Frodo in the Two Towers where like he gets taken off to the like orc tower, he
yeah,
gets captured, and then to tell the Fellowship's part of the Two Towers and then immediately go to the Fellowship's part in The Return of the King and then like have to go through all of that before you find out what happened to Frodo and Sam. That would
yeah,
have been I actually kind of agree. That would have been really cool.
yeah,
But it would have been really brave to make people wait that long, read that much to find out.
yeah. Um, yeah. But I don't know. Also, I again, this is a movie and book difference kind of thing. But like, I, I, I guess reading it now, I kind of not like annoyed, but I would prefer if the books would intercut between Frodo and Aragorn, rather than just like tell the story completely and then go backwards and then tell the other story completely, the different perspective. And um, I think it would work better, but I guessing he was trying to emulate medieval stories at the time. Medieval literature would do that from different perspectives. I think is from what I got from the Wikipedia page. Interloping, I believe it's called.
Yeah.
Um,
I think it actually works much better in the way that he did it. With a movie, cutting back and forth works. I feel like with a book, focusing on one aspect and then and then finishing that and then working back to the other. You could do it chapter by chapter. Like you could probably break it up more,
yeah,
I guess, but it would be I don't know. It would be very different. Especially in certain parts where like um the pacing is going to be different in each part of the in each of the side
yeah.
stories.
Um, Yeah, I think that it's I think both are fine. I just preferences.
Mhm.
Um, but I don't know. I think I'm guessing we're gonna be talking about the movie. I the Helm's Deep goes on for a really long time.
Yeah.
It does get indulgent. With how especially how Legolas is like I forgot what he does, but he does something very
On the
acrobatic.
shield, yeah, he jumps
Yeah,
on the shield and goes down the stairs and, like, shoots some arrows at some guys at the same time.
I'm
Yeah.
like maybe a little bit too much, but whatever. I think
But
it was the style of the time too.
yeah, well, the thing is, like, everything that we said about Fellowship of the Ring as far as, like, cast and soundtrack and cinematography and all that is the same for the Two Towers.
Mhm.
I think the problem with the Two Towers is that, we've built, like we've built this world in the Fellowship, and we've just been introduced to it, right?
Mhm.
We don't have a ton of finer details about it. And I think what happens in the Two Towers is Tolkien goes, "I'm gonna set up a bunch of finer details,"
Yeah.
and it's too much for me. There's like way too much information I think packed into the Two Towers. But yeah, that's what I think happened to
Oh,
both the movie and the book version for me because
yeah.
obviously the movie can't change too much of that.
Yeah, this is the one extended edition I am not looking forward to watching because because the end chapter
The
went
ends
on.
talk so slowly, which is the point,
Yeah,
but
but Oh boy. I don't know what it's like in the extended editions, but I can only imagine how long that would be. I think I don't know which one has the least amount of time added to it because of the extended editions, but I'm assuming a lot of it is because they were just talking to a tree, just so much. Because I might just not skip, but like just like watch the theatrical edition, just because I
Oh. Well,
just for
Gimli
this.
also voices Treebeard. I just saw that.
Huh, that makes sense.
That actually, yeah, thinking back, their voices are pretty similar.
Um,
It's just like a slowed down Gimli, pretty much.
yeah. um, yeah, but I don't know. I feel like this what he I think mostly because the info dumps. I think he puts info dumps um uh, Tolkien. He puts info dumps sparingly.
Mhm.
But he dumps them at some, when there's
Yeah,
a small
when he info dumps, like it's like
to,
tens of pages at least.
all
Like
in dialogue.
all in dialogue, very like dense paragraphs. Um so yeah, that when he does it well, I actually really like it, but I don't think he does it that well in the Two Towers. Maybe there's like one time, but
I mean, like,
that's just me. Preferences.
yeah, they're yeah. I feel like that's something that again, preferences, not something you can really change because it's
Hmm.
more of a problem with the source material. We're criticizing Lord of the Rings here, I guess.
Yeah.
But time goes on, some things we can look back on, just kind of criticize it without taking away from the achievement of the work. Um, it's just here, it's just like, hmm. So I think, um, I think I did prefer the movie Fellowship more, but like the Two Towers, I kind of prefer the book more because there's more happy because like
There's more
Fellowship,
happening.
yeah,
I get
yeah,
that. I do
Fellowship was
understand
sending the
that.
ball rolling, and then yeah, plus we get introduced to Gollum, which I think um I don't think we appreciate Andy Serkis enough for going through all that, just like actually selling the character. And
He actually underwent surgery and dietary restrictions to become Gollum,
holy
actually.
cow.
No, I'm
Oh, okay.
I'm joking.
I was
He
like, wow.
actually there's no CG on God. Like that's just him. He
Yeah.
just he
Drugs. Never again. Yeah. But um he kind of I know it was done with motion capture, which is the same thing that Benedict Cumberbatch did for Smaug, but
Hmm.
I don't know want to know the surgery he went through for that.
Movies, to
Yeah.
be honest. I
Um
like literally I don't think I've met a person who doesn't know what Gollum is. But I've met
it,
people who haven't seen the movies.
yeah, he's
So,
referenced if you're going to reference something, you'll reference Gollum or you shall not pass, which I believe in the books was you cannot pass, if I remember that correctly. Cuz I was waiting for that in the book. I was like, "Oh, you cannot pass." I'm like, "Oh." Um which I think it's one of the changes that I kind of changes I kind of agree with. I don't think they changed much in the Two Towers. Besides kind of excising some details. I know that the I was waiting for the elves to show up in the movie, like the elves that run into Frodo, or I think yeah,
yeah, that
um
gets cut for the most part, right? He doesn't
yeah,
like really meet elves until they go to the city.
yeah, which like yeah, pacing problems.
Hmm.
Like whatever. I feel like we can live without that. I don't remember what else they cut, but I think that was the most egregious one. I think it's yeah. Um but yeah, I think that this movie is good for what they had. I don't think there was anything that like really just made it stand out. Except for the spider scene. The spider stuff with Frodo, the Shelob with Frodo and Sam. That gets moved from the Two Towers all the way to Return of the King in the movies. In the books, I think
Yeah, and yeah, I was
yeah.
about to say we can't really talk about the Two Towers without talking about the Return of the King because of what Peter Jackson did to the
Which
stories.
honestly, which I think works.
No, it works. Yeah, it definitely works for a movie. It definitely works
Yeah,
because especially because of the focus that he wanted to put on Helm's Deep. Um, so like it works because of how much focus that's there. You don't have to have as much in the Two Towers for Frodo and Sam. You can really focus on the travel part with them and Gollum
yeah.
slash Smeagol.
And we didn't talk about the change in the Fellowship, where they changed the ending to include chapter one of the Two Towers, and they put it
Yeah.
at the ending of Fellowship, which again works because it really sells that this is a downer of an ending.
Hmm.
It's just like the Fellowship has now split and disbanded, and now whatever they do is just out of fate, so they can't really control it. So it's just they're crossing the fingers.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else happened in the Two Towers? But yeah, oh yeah, Helm's Deep, best part of the movie.
Yep.
I feel like we haven't discussed it, but like, this what is there to discuss? I just like how long it is and how well it's shot. Um, I think this, I no, Return of the King has the highest body count in any movie. I think the Two Towers, because like it's PG-13, but if they're not human, you can just show as much gore as you want. Um, so when it gets real, they show a lot of people dying or a lot of orcs dying. And the orcs look great, by the way. You can tell it's practical effects, but the practical effects again really sell it. Because if you look at The Hobbit, and I don't think there were orcs. I think there were orcs in it. And
Oh, isn't
it was
the
awesome.
change sorry, I was just isn't the change in the Two Towers movie for because they obviously they took a bunch of they took Shelob and stuff out of the Two Towers in the movie, right?
Mhm.
And so the thing that they replaced it with to kind of pair with a Helm's Deep is that they went to that city. Wasn't that not in the book like at all? They went to that city as it was like being attacked by ring wraiths and stuff. And Boromir was there, if I remember correctly. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
I know what did I don't know if that was an actual difference. Ah,
I believe I'm I don't remember that from the book, but I also was like checked out by the end of the Two Towers, the book. So
okay. Yeah,
um I know Shelob is the ending to the book, the Two
yeah,
Towers. So it's that is at least a change. Um
yeah. It works. And it also gives more. Well, I mean, do we have anything else to say? Um, what did you think about Gandalf coming back to life?
I was fine with it. I mean, I knew it was coming, so it's just kind of like when it's such a famous plot point, I don't know. It's just something that I expected, and then it happened, and I was like, I didn't think that much about it because
Yeah,
it's it's like a famous Gandalf the Grey becomes Gandalf the White when he dies and is resurrected. Like it's just a thing that happens because it's such like it's a plot point that I heard about before I was even
yeah.
interested
No,
in
it was in
reading or
it was
watching.
famously in the trailers to the movie,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
everybody knows about it. But I'm just like, man, I haven't liked it every single time. Just like every time I see, him, like, could have explained that better. And the
yeah.
explanation you give is kind of bad. But that's not for me to decide. That's whatever.
So reading just refreshing my because I read the Two Towers months ago. Just refreshing my memory on the book. Um, I remember in the movie that Frodo and Sam go with Faramir because he captures them, right? They
Yeah.
like, and so they end up at the like city that's being assaulted or the outpost or whatever it is.
Mm.
Um, and he releases them in the movie from the city. Like he's like, go because I think he realizes like the importance of what Frodo's doing, basically, because
Hmm.
Frodo won't tell him what he's doing. Um, and in the book, I'm pretty sure Faramir just like resists the temptation of the ring and just lets him go. And I think that changes probably to further in the movie to further exemplify the like danger of the temptation of the ring. Uh, but but if I remember correctly, like he doesn't bring them that far in the book. He releases them before that point.
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you're right. We should really look up the differences between the
Yeah,
books
we probably should have. But I remembered this one. So
faintly.
point point one to me. All right. So I guess that we should transition to Return of the King. It's not going to be a total transition because of the
Yeah.
plot,
But now
but
you'll notice our attitude's completely changing. We're happy again.
yeah, I love Return of the King. It
I
is
I still love it.
it's very good.
And I've come to terms with the ending, which okay, I guess
We'll get to that. We'll get to that late. Let's talk about the ending when we get to the ending,
okay.
okay? So, yeah, I mean it's like the thing that I say about Return of the King is kind of the exact thing that I say about Fellowship of the Ring. It's like a parallel. Return of the Fellowship of the Ring is an excellent opening and introduction to the world, tons of great world building and all of that. Return of the King is an excellent climax. It's like like there's some setup obviously, but as
Mhm.
soon as it like starts going, especially in the book, it's going and it's just
Yeah.
climactic until you get to like the like epilogue after the
Yeah.
climax. Um
And it's
which
great
it's really good.
in both
Um
versions.
yes, yeah, it's handled really well except for something at the ending which I said we would get to when we get to it.
Yeah.
Um do you remember any changes in particular outside of the ones to the end that we're going to talk about?
Sheila, that's the one we just said.
Yep.
Um, oh man, it's like a pop quiz. I, I know that Prince Emriel is not really said, not really discussed. Um, he supported Gandalf's defense of Minas Tirith. I think this was like kind of a minor character. Um, and then I'm trying to look up the changes as well. Now, um, yeah, I mean, there's also the change to a Pippin singing to Denethor. That was I love that change. That was
Mm.
probably the best moment in the movie.
Yeah, this is kind of a change of it's a little bit off topic, but Pippin and Mary actually in the books, I was kind of whatever on like they just felt like side characters to me for most
Mhm.
of it, and then like and it's either at the end of the Two Towers or the beginning of Return of the King. One of them grabs that orb. Oh, it's
Yeah.
changed actually. In the
Oh,
movie, it's the beginning of the Return of the King,
oh
and
yeah.
in the book, it's the end of the Two Towers. He grabs the orb and like he sees Sauron or whatever.
Has a seizure.
And I'm like, wow, that's dumb. Why would he do that? And then, and then the rest of Return of the King, especially the big battle, kind of like made me care about Pippin and Merry like a lot.
Was he
Um,
in the battle in the books? I can't remember.
one of them was, I think it was Pippin, if
Yeah,
I'm not
I feel
mistaken.
like yeah that was faithful. Um,
Uh,
yeah, yeah. I definitely like how they. This is the movie where they start to really shine. And like how they become to their own, and you can sense that they've grown. Because for some
yeah,
reason Gandalf just always has beef with them, which I'm guessing fool of a took just alerts everybody in the mines.
yeah.
But there's some mutual respect. I like that little moment they have where it's like where he tells Pippin, we're gonna get Pippin and Mary mixed up. Sorry, they
Yeah,
look
we are. We
yeah.
definitely they look the same in the movie. They talk the same in the movies, and they're people. I saw somebody try and tell me that they were like very different in the book. I didn't feel that way at all.
Yeah,
They've always felt as kind of like a package duo that are like fairly similar with like some differences.
yeah.
Um,
Um,
Also, hot take. I kind of like the Battle of Gondor more than the Battle for Helm's Deep.
Holy cow.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Hot take. Hot take.
I think they're on par for me. I
Yeah.
would say so.
Helm's Deep is definitely more famous than Gondor. Like if you think of battle imagery usually
Yeah,
from the movies, you think of Helm's Deep probably first.
yeah. But the Battle of Gondor. I mean, there's so many great moments.
Yeah.
Like I like how you do say like there's some downtime. There's like some dips. What is it when Frodo, like when all despair is lost, like I think Sauron. No, this is near the end of the battle, but like um, whenever Aragon says for Frodo, I'm like, buddy, yes. And then they all charge
Yeah,
against them. Like, oh man, that gets my adrenaline going.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
Uh,
really I actually really like also the moment, I believe they pretty much ripped it straight out of the book where, um is it the daughter of the like king of Gondor?
Eowyn, are you talking about? Yeah.
Eowyn, where she just goes, the ring wraith like goes
I am
like,
no man. Yeah.
no man has ever defeated me before, and she just goes, I am no man, and then
Ah,
yeah.
so good.
Um yeah, it's just a very good climax in general.
Yeah.
It's
Just the amount of dated CGI, but like the dated CGI doesn't really distract. I mean, I don't even think it's that dated. It's just really well done.
yeah. Yeah.
Um,
The CGI done in this movie is actually really good for the time.
yeah.
Um
And revolutionary, I think probably. I mean, I'm saying that, but like, that's probably
Probably.
verified. That's
I mean,
probably
yeah,
verifiable. Yeah.
Lord of the Rings is just like has been revolutionary in every iteration
Yeah.
pretty much,
It's
so
the most ambitious film trilogy ever made. I would say
mhm.
so. Probably the most ambitious film ever outside of the 70s, where they had that entire string of just like, hey, let's just throw money at stuff and let's see what happens. Which film history joke right there. What is it? Also, I also really like how they handled Gollum. I like the change, so the other significant change they made when Gollum tries to frame Sam, and I was like, oh man, I really hate Gollum. I really hate him. um, and it does give because I don't think this happens in the book, but like when Frodo just starts to actually lose faith in Sam, and then they have some antagonistic not battle, but just like he tells him, just like you're not part of this adventure anymore. You're going back. I'm like, yeah. Once that happens, Jill's
Go
up,
home,
go home.
Sam.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Gollum. I just because I one of my favorite tropes is just villains that you just absolutely despise. They have no redeemable features at all. And you just hate their guts, like King Joffrey style.
And I will say for a long time, like you almost feel bad for Gollum, right? And
Yeah,
then he like obviously he's manipulative and like a creep
he's a
and a
victim though.
weirdo, but he's a victim. He's a victim to power. And then he does this, and it's like this feels like unforgivable. Like this
Yeah,
is
especially to our
so
boy
bad.
Sam. Especially to
Yeah,
Sam.
Sam is like I've next to Frodo, like the because Frodo is supposed to be like super pure of heart or
Yeah,
whatever. Next to Frodo, like the purest character in the movie, probably in the movies.
yeah,
And he does this to him. Sam just wants to help his friend, and Gollum is like, "Go away." And he
yeah.
frames him.
Honestly, yeah, and I also doubted Sam. Like when I first watched the movie trilogy, back to back to back, I was like, yeah, I'm like, I didn't expect Sam. I thought Sam was just gonna be dead weight, you know, just so he has just something so that Frodo has someone to talk to. Um, so I'm just like, oh, but then Sam just, he pulls out the weird flashlight thing. What is that called?
Yeah,
Whatever
I
it's
don't
called.
remember.
Tries to fight the Shelob. I'm like, buddy, and then he actually saves him. I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
best part of the movie.
and I think also coming off of Hemingway month, where I talked about how this like view of traditional masculinity that we have now is not the view of traditional masculinity that people had back in the day. There's this like very there's this focus on the importance of like brotherhood and like being able to lean on your friends, and having those like very strong relationships, that I think like we don't view masculinity having any uh having wanting, right? Like
Yeah,
our view of traditional masculinity is that like you do it on your own and you don't cry about it.
yeah,
And that's like not what this movie seems to be saying, is like
yeah,
the hero doesn't need to be that. um so I think that's really interesting, just as like a kind of a case study for who for these characters, and like the view of what a hero is over time and how it's progressed, and like then also masculinity, how it directly relates to that. um
yeah. Yeah, and I appreciate the movie not shying away from that because man, um, you know, it's good to be a good guy, and not just like because like okay, if Frodo was like tough and gruff, it'd be a really boring movie because
yeah
that's not the movie we're here to watch. We're here to watch someone like against all the odds. everybody doubts the hobbits because the hobbits never leave the Shire.
Hmm.
And he overcomes the odds because, like, okay, Frodo gets beaten. He basically gets destroyed. I think Tolkien describes him as a tragic hero because he barely
Yeah,
survives the adventure. Comes home broken. Um, and
which we'll talk about.
yeah,
Yeah, PTSD. Everyone has PTSD.
yeah. Um, yeah, he doesn't shy away from the effects that this has on him. So he feels like a almost like a subversion of just like the traditional hero. Because he's not strong. He's a lot of it is I wouldn't say it's on coincidence, but like it's from the support of other people, mainly Sam. And a lot of it is just through quick wit rather than like intelligence, like street smarts, wisdom.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, so there's that too. So yeah.
And
Um,
like even though Sam has his hero moment, I feel like Sam serves more as like a shoulder to lean on for Frodo than anything else, which is given this important role in the story, and I think
yeah.
that's really cool.
Um, yeah, and in the books, I'm one of my favorite little conversations with them is just like when they start talking about the story they'll tell. Like, oh, like you can't tell the story of Frodo without Sam. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, that's adorable.
Yeah. And then and then you remember that in the book Sam is actually like Frodo's indentured servant. Like
Oh wait, I
yeah,
guess
he's like a
not.
servant under Frodo.
Oh,
He's
that's why he was the gardener. Oh yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
good
Um
in the movie for leaving that out.
yeah. No, yeah, and I think it like no matter what in both versions it still works as like a story of brotherhood because obviously they get a lot closer as friends even though technically Sam works under Frodo. But
Hmm.
I think it still works for the thing that we look at it as, which is a story of like brotherhood and two heroic men getting
Yes.
closer together.
Yeah, and I know that okay, like everybody loves to ship two people together, but man, why can't just two people be friends? You don't have to play
Yeah,
anything romantic into it.
yeah.
There are stories for that, or maybe you can write your own stories for
I
that.
think and I think there should be stories for that. But like this is not one of them. This is a
Yeah,
story about men getting closer as
yeah,
friends and brothers, and it's because of Tolkien, because Tolkien was a veteran
mm,
of World War One. So like this is the story that he knows how to tell really well of like that kind of relationship, and it's handled extremely well
yes,
in this.
doesn't shy away from sentimentality,
Yeah.
um, and I think that yeah, I think that it works. Not work, it excels at everything. Um, yeah, and Sam risking basically his entire life. And I don't like how the movie left this out, but why they explain because it confused me the first time I watched it. Why Frodo doesn't want Sam to have the ring because he doesn't seem corrupted by it that much. I
Hmm.
think even at all. But in the books, he explains that if I don't have the ring, I'll go insane or something like that. It's my burden to carry. It's something like that. If I'm mistaken, but it
Yeah, I
works.
think so. I think it's a combination of like a love for Sam that he doesn't want him to be corrupted by it, and then
Oh,
also like the fact that he feels like he should be the only one to like truly carry the burden, even if he has someone's shoulder to lean on, like when Sam carries
mm,
him the last few feet to Mount Doom. And then it's also kind of partially, and you can tell which parts in certain parts when he's telling Sam not to take it, which thing is more important to him. In certain parts, it's more important because Frodo is being corrupted by the ring. And you can kind of tell in each situation, I think, where Frodo is telling him, like, no, I want the ring in the book and in the movie,
mm,
which thing is hitting him more, whether it's like corruption or
yeah.
he thinks he should carry it and he doesn't want Sam to have to truly carry the burden.
Yeah. But yeah, I appreciate that. Especially when Sam carries Frodo,
Yeah.
it's like
Oh my
man,
god.
uh tugs
Yeah,
the
if
heartstrings.
if I can't, I don't remember the quote, but it's like if I can't carry the burden, I can at least carry you, Mister Frodo.
Best moment in the movie, and then the music swells up. I'm like, buddy,
Yeah,
this yeah, and that's why Sam's the best character. Yeah, as you can tell, we're talking more about Frodo and Sam because I think it might be my favorite part of it. Of the entire trilogy or the entire
yeah,
volume. Sorry.
And I think like also just to because we're getting I think we're getting to this point.
Yeah,
I think it's incredible that um Gollum ends up kind of being the hero of the story, because if
yeah,
Gollum hadn't followed Frodo and Sam, oh,
yeah,
Gollum has his uh has his part to play in this still.
mhm,
Um if Gollum hadn't followed them, like Frodo was being corrupted, Sauron saw him because he put the ring on, and then that would have been it. It would have been
yeah.
all over without Gollum. Um it's really interesting. Uh
Yeah. I think even Gandalf, I think he mentions it offhand,
mhm.
where it's like, what is it? Like, there's a invisible guiding hand, because like it is by pure coincidence that Gollum actually encounters Sam and Frodo the first time,
Yeah.
and like it's like almost I don't say impossible, but like it's very convenient that it does. But like
Yeah.
this invisible guiding hand, I think that's kind of a hand wave of just like some of the Deus Ex Machinas, which I guess that can now explain and make me forgive him coming back to life when he should have died. People
Yeah,
should be
I
dead.
I don't actually I don't think of now obviously it's chance that Gollum finds them the first time, but that he follows them the rest of the time makes sense, right?
Yeah,
And it also I think kind of makes sense that like he would chance into them. Like that's not really like a I don't know that that's something that needs to be over explained. Like Gollum is probably like he wants the ring back, and so it it's I don't know. I don't think it's too big of a leap in logic to be like, oh, he chances into them. Um and then obviously there's the other Deus Ex Machina that's in the movies.
we're almost there. Hold on.
We're almost there.
Okay. Um. Okay. And then how about when Frodo is about to throw the ring into
Yeah.
the Mount Doom? Um. Yeah, it's like okay. The first time I watched this, I genuinely had no idea what was about to happen. I'm like, oh man, because I guess I was so enraptured in the story. I'm like, no, Frodo, don't please drop into the ring. And when he turns back to Sam, I'm like, no,
Yeah.
yeah,
And it makes sense too, because the ring is kind of given it's like basically like evil personified, and
yeah.
so the ring would know like, oh, this is it, and so it puts all as much influence out as it can to get Frodo to not drop it into the lava, um and corrupt is able to corrupt Frodo like last second.
That's the last ditch effort.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just really liked how that was done, and then I think it's combined with the fact that I think once he puts on the ring, Sauron notices, and I think that's when the the army, which is kind of neglected, but like I mean that's kind of second to what really happening here because again I think I believe Frodo's like the main character.
Hmm.
How the army kind of just encircles around the Aragorn, the other part of the Fellowship, um, and like it just goes at a dark goes at a dark moment, and I genuinely did believe that it was like that part in Jurassic Park where the kid's climbing the fence and you don't know if that fence is going to be switched on. I'm like, oh, looks like I edge of my seat. I had no idea what was happening, and then it happens. So, ooh. But like him dropping the ring, and then Gollum, out of all people, coming back to just like even though it was
Be the hero of the story, even though his intentions are not to be the
yes,
hero. Yeah.
yeah, without Gollum, it would not have happened. But once he bites the finger, I was like, holy cow! He actually did it. That's what I'm talking about. It's just like it was great.
You're so excited you went a little Canadian there. A boot.
um, yeah. Hey, it's like when I don't know. I just really love the battle that happens.
Hmm.
Even though it's all invisible, it just I don't know. I just really like that how it was portrayed in the movie. And then I don't remember in the books, but I think the movie did it away with more tension.
Hmm.
Um, really, here's how I kind of like to look at the movies and the books. The movies, I like more for the characters, and the book I like for more of the setting and how much life they give to like just the outside world. I think the movies
Yeah.
did a really good job at like showing the characters. Um, Also, I wrote down in my scant notes. I actually enjoyed the Fellowship more. I know I forgot in my notes, but for a while I could not tell Aragorn and Boromir apart. So I was like, who? because
Really?
yeah, yeah,
um yeah, also real quick, I will say the finger being bitten off is of like it's a very obvious like symbol, but it's like symbolic of the like deeper scars that Frodo is going to carry. Like getting your whole finger bit off is a very deep physical scar,
yeah,
right? It's like a very obvious thing.
mm,
And so Frodo's like his PTSD and his mental state after this journey is about as big as getting a whole finger chopped off.
yeah,
I think is like it's interesting in that sense as well that
yeah.
that's the choice that was made.
That could work. Yeah, I think, I guess that is a good symbol of it. So yeah, yeah, and then I just love how they actually showed it going all the way into the lava, and Gollum falling into it and all that, and Sauron. I don't think they described Sauron. Oh, we didn't even get to Saruman's death and how that was excised from.
Oh yeah. Oh my
Yeah,
god, we forgot about that. Yeah, so Saruman dies at the end of the Two Towers pretty
off screen.
much.
And they just mentioned it.
Yeah. Or is it off screen? I thought it was
It was okay in the extended edition.
mm,
Yeah,
okay.
they kind of mention it. It's like, oh yeah, they look at the tower and it's like, man, he died like this. That
Oh
sucks.
yeah, that's
And then they
right.
found the orb. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Um,
Yeah. It's I understand completely why why what oh my god.
Christopher Lee.
Christopher Lee was mad because like Saruman's part at the end of the Return of the King, which I'm sure we'll get to in a second, the end of the book is not like the most important thing ever.
Yeah.
But it is I think like fairly important. It's as important as the epilogue
Yeah.
um which focuses on the changes that the group has undergone, right,
Yeah.
that the four hobbits have undergone, and the book focuses very heavily on this aspect and the movies don't as much, so it's not as important because of what the movies focus on,
Yeah.
but because the book like hyper fixates on the changes that these hobbits, like the different
Yeah.
people that the four are now, is it's very important to it's much more important to the books.
Yeah. Um, yeah. It still doesn't excuse how they portrayed it in the movies or the lack
No,
of,
yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
even okay, and how his death was in the extended editions. I'm still not like super a fan of. It still just seems very
No, yeah, I
anticlimactic.
saw a clip of that too. It's like very like nobody it doesn't feel like anybody really defeats him.
I
Like
think he just
doesn't he like
fall. Yeah, he
he
just
like
falls,
falls off the tower? Yeah.
and I think gets impaled. Does he get impaled? I
I
don't
don't
even know.
remember. But either way, like I don't know. I feel like if you really wanted to change his like Saruman's ultimate fate, I feel like it would have been better to put him in one of the battles for the Fellowship
Yeah, yeah. That
in
that
the
is
Return
fair.
of the King. Like I feel like that would have been a much better place to put it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would probably be better if he dies of a
That's
heart
true.
attack. If he died of a heart attack, that would be better.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, overall, but though Christopher Lee did great what was given. I wish we got more of him. That's
Yeah.
all. That's their main complaint. Also, I know we're talking about casting again, but I remember in the books they described like, oh yeah, he's looks very similar to me, but just very subtly different. And whoever the actor was, oh my, Ian
Ian
McKellen and Christopher Lee,
McKellen and
they look
Christopher Lee.
vaguely similar.
Yeah.
And yeah, that is pitch perfect casting right there.
Yeah. It's very well done. Okay, so I guess now we should talk about the ending and the thing that people always bring up as a joke about the ending to the Lord of the Rings.
There's a couple of a couple
There's
of
a couple of
complaints.
things that yeah. First thing I would say, because I think it's the first thing that really comes up that people complain about, is the Eagles. Why didn't the Eagles just fly the ring to Mount Doom? And I understand why people think this is a problem because wow, in the movies, they really just show up.
Yeah.
Like Gandalf is really just like, oh yeah, I sent some eagles to go pick them up, and then they're just there, and then like they all fly off to um, is it Rivendell that they go to afterwards, or is it Gondor?
Uh,
I don't remember.
Rivendell.
And then Frodo heals up basically. Like that's it.
Yeah.
In the books, like like Gandalf literally explains, he's like, yeah, I mean they have their own stuff going on. Like they're not really worried about our wars. Like it's a sentient race of beings. They don't really they have their own things. And then also like we wanted to distract Sauron and make him think we were going to use it, and it wouldn't really work if we just went straight there. Like Gandalf explains all of it in the books, and then in the movie he's just kind of like, yeah, I sent the eagles to go pick him up. That's like it.
And he's riding on the Eagles too.
Yeah, yeah, and he goes.
But I mean,
Yeah, I
the
understand
head.
why
Yeah.
people who have just seen the movie think it's an issue, but like I was very mad when I saw the movie because I was like, this is in the book, it's not an issue. Like they explain why, but they just cut that from the movie for some reason, even though it's like
Yeah.
pretty important to like what's actually happening.
Yeah. The headcanon, because it also bothered me. Just like, oh, that's why. But the headcanon explanation, is that, at least within the context of the movie, is that, they need to avoid detection, from Sauron, because he
Yeah.
has beams. So
Well, yeah, that's I mean, that's not just a headcanon, that's like the reason
I wish they would
in
have
the book.
explained that.
Yeah. They need to avoid detection from Sauron, and they want to trick Sauron into thinking that they're going to use the ring. Like that's the
Yeah,
whole explanation essentially.
yeah. I Yeah. I mean, I can live with it. But you are right now, after reading the books and just seeing how, what kind of, not a disservice, but just like kind of a disappointing way to do it. It's just like, just have the Eagles show up, to answer his
Yeah.
question. So.
Like it just feels like, especially because the ending is given like so much gravity
Mhm.
in the books, right? It's like the majority of the final part, right? Like the first like 3 or 4 chapters are Frodo and Sam, the last of their journey, making it to Mount Doom. Maybe it's 5 chapters, I don't know. It's like less than the first half of the final book of Return of the King is them going to Mount Doom, and then the rest of the book is just like them dealing with the aftermath, having PTSD, going
and
home.
and scourging the Shire. But
Yeah.
we're gonna get, but we'll hold off on that. Yeah. I think we've said our say about the Eagles. The Eagles. I don't know. But I think, the bigger complaint I had when I was first watching the movie, I've come to terms with it now, but how long the ending is, like
Mhm.
the epilogue, Frodo wakes up, he's in heaven, I guess, and once he wakes up, he just sees all his friends, and they all jump on the bed with him, and everybody's smiling. I'm just like, it borders on like saccharine parody, because that took me out of the movie. I'm like, what? What's going on
Yeah.
here?
It's just like the complete opposite reaction. And it's also like, yeah, in the books they're happy, but it's also like, yeah, we're damaged from this. Like all of
Yeah,
us are like very much damaged from
yeah,
this journey. Um but in the movie Frodo's like, yeah, we did it. So yeah.
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 I feel like that scene may have been just like, should have been cut, because like it's just like, I get that, you want to show Frodo being safe. That's not the best way to show
Yeah.
it.
And I also get it because like in the book that scene is quite a bit longer because Gandalf like explains things.
Yeah,
And that kind of wouldn't have worked after like immediately
maybe
following
you
the
could explain
climax of
why
a
I couldn't
movie.
fly the Eagles to
Yeah,
Mordor.
right. And that kind of wouldn't have worked like following the climax of a movie. I think it would have been very hard at least to pull off.
Yeah,
So I get why it was changed, but I mean, it's you could make it a little more solemn. Like like
yeah, because yeah, it's a huge tonal whiplash, which may have been
yeah.
intentional, but it's like, it's too much.
Yeah. I
Um,
agree.
and then, but we do come to the best scene in the movie after that, where I think it's the coronation of Aragorn. I believe that's what follows that scene.
Yes. I think
that
so.
that's the true best epilogue right there. Where no, I think I think he actually it's the one where he talks to Elrond, but like, you know, who
Yeah.
again,
Who
romance
cares
stuff.
about that?
Yeah. I,
Whatever.
yeah, as you can tell, we barely kind of mentioned that. So, um, yeah, she chooses mortality. Good for her. And now she's gonna be his queen. I think probably they kiss at the end. So yeah, I'm assuming.
They kind of go over it because there's like it wasn't the focus of the trilogy. So they
Yeah,
just like moving on. They're like, "Oh yeah, they're together now anyways."
yeah. Um, but like yeah, it once I really do like the scene, even though it's very grandiose. But I just
Mhm.
once he sees Frodo and the four hobbits, and he goes, "You, my friends, bow to no one." I'm like, oh, heartbreak right there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That is really good. But
I don't
then
know.
as for the rest of the scenes in the movie's epilogue, I it's like I think I understand why they want to be succinct because they're like it's over. Like we did the
Yeah,
trilogy in a movie. It doesn't make sense to have an epilogue as long as the one. I know it's not technically an epilogue, but like basically is. It doesn't make sense
yeah.
to have an epilogue as long as the one that like that Tolkien wanted for for Lord of the Rings.
I think
I understand making it more succinct, but even like the scenes that they chose are like too succinct. Um,
yeah,
like with Frodo finishing the book and he like ends up writing the Lord of the Rings
by
to
hand,
attach by
by
hand
hand.
to attach to Bilbo's Hobbit, which or the journey. What is it called?
The long there and back again.
There and back again. The like surprising journey. It's not the surprising journey. It's some
Unexpected.
unexpected journey. Yes, that's what it is. Um, he attaches the Lord of the Rings to Bilbo's like the Hobbit, basically. Um, and you know that's cute and all, but like I feel like it's given some like more importance almost in the book, as well as Frodo's eventual decision to basically like go to heaven or whatever.
Yeah, I okay. I really wish they would because I kind of know that the boat is kind of a metaphor,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I know in the movie that they I guess since we're first gonna talk about the movie and then we'll talk about the scourging in the shower and how they excise that. I mean, I guessing for pacing problems, I'll talk about the scourging in the shower. Okay. Um, yeah, I know that Tolkien was. This is from what I understand that Tolkien was trying to have a reference to Greek mythology because, like, in the Odyssey, what the Odyssey itself was just like this very long perilous journey where no one survived except for Odysseus. And when he
Mhm.
comes back, there's another part of it. I think it's just to take back his wife. I
Yeah.
don't remember the name, so that's
Yes.
there too.
Penelope, I believe.
Yeah. So when that happens, it's just like it's in reference to that, and I think that the Scourging the Shire, I don't. People were like, man, the Scourging the Shire could have been its own movie, but like, I think it was the right call to cut it out in the movie.
I
Because
think
like,
so too, but it also like cutting it out also cuts out a lot of
yeah,
the like sitting with the PTSD, right?
yeah,
I think the part of what makes the epilogue, I keep calling it that, the last part of the Lord of the Rings so good is because it forces you to sit, it forces you after the like grand victory that you're hyped for to sit with the real effects on the
hmm
people who did it. Whereas the movie doesn't do that. And I think that's I'm fine with the ending to the movie. I thought it was good. It was a good movie ending, but it doesn't force you to sit with the real like effects that this had on the people. And by extent, because this movie is really kind of about war, honestly.
yeah,
Just like The Hobbit. Um uh by extent forces you to sit with the effects of war and that kind of a thing on real life soldiers.
yes, um, yeah, yeah, and then again, this is where Saruman appears. I think Wormtongue appears there too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, he's working with
uh,
him.
yeah, and does show because I think Frodo at first was like his character development is like him showing mercy because again at the beginning he wishes that Gollum was killed, but like and then it was fate that actually helped Gollum actually destroy the ring. So I think he shows Saruman a mercy, but then I think
Mhm.
someone kills him anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so it does show that, and I think even Sam had his own moment where he wanted to kill Gollum, but he took pity on him and just let him go. So there's that
To
too.
to be honest, Saruman's end in the actual Lord of the Rings also isn't very good.
Yeah,
Um,
anticlimactic.
yeah, I mean it's good on to show the effects of the journey on Frodo and Sam.
Mhm,
But it's not good as an ending for one of the main antagonists.
exactly.
Um, yeah.
I mean, yeah, yeah. If you're going to cut out the Scourging of the Shire, I mean, I'm guessing what the extended edition showed was okay. Again, I would like Pierce's suggestion where it could have showed him being killed in battle. That would have been more
Mhm.
valiant. So there's that too. Um,
You
but
could have had you could oh my god, you could have had this like epic scene where it's like Gandalf and like Saruman and
fighting
like the
again.
eye of the storm
Oh,
of the like war and they like have a they're like fighting and talking. It could have
yeah.
been really cool.
It
Too
could have been
bad.
really cool. I mean,
Yeah.
okay, we saw their first fight scene. There's a lot of
Yeah.
stunt doubles. We saw the stunt doubles. They're just
Yeah.
flipping around. I think a lot of wires, just propping them up.
God, all of a sudden that hair looks really
Really,
loose.
yeah,
Oh, wow.
it's covering their faces. Um, yeah, okay. Also, I think maybe that might be a little bit of a weak part of the movie, which is like the fights between Gandalf and Saruman, where they
Mm,
obviously are stunt double. It doesn't take away from the movie that much. It's just like it's very
yeah.
noticeable because you expect it to be more cool than just telekinesis, and just dragging people.
Yeah.
Um, but the ending in the movie, at first again I thought it was too long, but I think it works. I still don't pick up on this, but apparently film critics have noted that like a lot of the PTSD is said with their eyes, just like very subtly without silence. And I think this is more Peter Jackson's weakness. If he had a different director, he would have allowed the silence to breathe more, because a lot of it is just intercut with more action or music rather than
Mhm.
letting it pace itself out and just like having the silence breathe and take in the moment. Because he's concerned with more of the spectacle. We could have had like David Lee. Okay, this is me getting to film nerd stuff, but David Lean, if you've seen Lawrence of Arabia, which you should, because great movie, um, yeah, it could have. There are lots of moments of just silence and letting them walk, and having that be the thing that really makes the moment, rather than music. Because not to say that the music isn't great, it would have been more effective just let more quiet moments breathe. Um,
Yeah.
but um, yeah, I like how they handled Bilbo at the end, and they just sent him off.
Mhm.
It does seem like it's going to be wrapping everything up, and then
I
I just
think I think the moment where at the end where it's Sam, it's like, isn't there a moment where I think I'm misremembering this now, but say there's a moment where Sam is like gonna have to go home alone or something, and then like
yeah
Pippin and Mary are there. It's like, no, you
yeah
won't. You'll always have.
because I think Frodo just gives him the house that he
Hmm.
lives in, and that's where Rosie Cotton and him move in. So
Yeah,
nice happy
with their
ending.
baby.
Wait, was it multiple children? Or no, I think it was
I
one.
think there were. I think there was one on the way, like a second
Yeah,
on the way in the
and they're
book.
carrying a baby. Whatever.
Yeah.
Oh wait, no. Okay, I didn't read the appendices, so I think they might have. I know. I see Pierce's face.
No, I
Uh,
didn't read the appendices either, to be honest.
okay, well, sorry, Lord of the Ring nerds.
Sorry, guys. I mean, eventually I'll read the
Y-
Silmarillion if that makes you feel any better. It'll
Yeah.
happen eventually.
Yeah, there's some great Middle Earth books. I've heard great things about Children of Hurin.
Mhm.
So there's that. A lot of his work has been published posthumously.
Yeah,
And Christopher Tolkien is the one that kind of does some of the revising. Some of it's
yeah.
written by
Like,
him.
and he strings some of the like stuff together, like some of the like
Yeah, I think
unfinished stuff. He puts it all.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's posthumously edited. Um, yeah, I don't think just my one complaint is just like I wish they handled Frodo better with him going in the boat, because I'm guessing I don't know.
Yeah.
It felt like a weird way to end off on that. Uh,
The ending of both is I think it's both flawed in slightly different ways. The ending of
mhm,
the book is even for like I feel like the flaws of the ending of the book are very minor, and the ending of the book is like
mhm,
excellent, and then the
yeah.
ending of the movie is like, yeah, it's okay. Like
Yeah.
you ended off a movie trilogy like fairly safely
Yeah.
here.
Again, maybe the extended editions may have fixed it.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know what they could include. We should have looked into what scenes they didn't include, and maybe they would
Probably.
have the execution. But that's your problem if you have a problem with that. Um, I
Yeah,
yeah
argue with a wall,
yeah
listeners.
yeah you can. I mean, oh man, that would be a great place to plug in our Twitter. But like we we have some reflections. Um, Overall, I now appreciate the story more. I think I I don't think anything could really hold a candle to the influence of Lord of the Rings. And I don't know. Have you started listening to more Lord of the Rings music? Like I know classic rock had a thing about this where they would reference Middle Earth as much. Again, Led Zeppelin would reference it. I think the most. I think they're the first rock band to do it. Um, but
Nothing in particular. I remember I remember when I haven't gotten around to it yet, but I'm planning on learning how to play the piano. I already
ooh,
kind of know how to play the guitar. And one of the first things that I was like, I want to work towards this was oh, what's that song called? Something Hobbits, like
regarding the hobbits, concerning the
yeah,
hobbits,
concerning the Hobbits, I think. One of those songs where it's like it's like in Hobbiton, it's like doo doo doo, like that one.
yeah.
Um,
Oh, if you knew how to play the flute, that would. Or whatever,
yeah.
whatever instrument it is.
I want to work when I do eventually actually have the time and I'm not working and going to school. I plan to learn some Lord of the Rings tunes on the piano.
Yeah.
But I haven't listened to anything in particular of like cultural influence on other bands that I can recall off the top
Let
of my head.
Honestly, I think Led Zeppelin's the one. I think.
Led Zeppelin's the main one,
Yeah.
definitely.
But where have we seen this reference before? Let's talk about the cultural influence. The Dungeons and Dragons. That's
Oh
the
my
big one.
god. Yeah, I literally just said Lord of the Rings has a stranglehold on tabletop role playing games, pretty much.
Yeah, especially the ones regarding fantasy. Um. Oh yeah, and also it's in the Lego Batman. Sauron's in there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Um. Again, you're gonna be watching The Hobbit. Are you gonna be watching the Amazon show?
I will be watching the Amazon show eventually.
Yeah.
I'll probably watch it when it comes out, actually. It depends on what's going on then.
Yeah.
It's gonna be week by week because Amazon does that. So
Yeah, I think most streaming services are doing that now, just because like
it's
they want to
not
be in the cultural.
Amazon.
Yeah, they want to be in the cultural zeitgeist because when Stranger Things okay, I know we're getting to casual off topic, but like yeah, it just keeps things in the cultural zeitgeist longer. Um, but yeah, I really do think that this is fantastic. Oh wait, yeah, Shadow of Mordor. Have you ever played that?
I have. I've played both Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War, and they're both good.
I heard they're
The
really.
story's a little weak, to be honest.
I heard it departs so much from the source material that it's considered non-canon. Just like
Really?
yeah,
Hmm.
they take too much artistic liberties. I know that they're also
See.
making a Lord of the Rings game with Gollum being stealthy.
Yeah, and I believe that one is supposed to be canon. Like it's supposed to be him between like they're working. I might be wrong on this, so don't quote me. But I if from what I heard, they're working with the Tolkien Foundation or whatever it's called
Yeah.
to like actually portray what Gollum did between the Hobbit and the Fellowship.
Okay. Well, the Tolkien Foundation, we have some. We don't.
Yeah, the Tolkien Foundation has some issues. Got
Yeah.
some serious issues over there, but
Yeah.
they are the arbiters of what is and is not canon. So
Apparently, but now that you say that, we can count Shadow of Mordor as
yeah,
something.
whatever.
Whatever. Who cares?
Who cares about the Tolkien Foundation?
Yeah. Death of the author. We have our own interpretation of what is canon and what is not. Um. Do you have anything else to say? Oh, wait. You know what? One day I also plan to go to New Zealand just to visit, Lord of the Rings sites.
Oh yeah, no, they have the whole Hobbiton set there. I
Yes.
actually also am considering that. I will not be also. I know Australia is right there. I will not be going there though because they it scares me.
Yeah,
But
I don't like spiders.
I really do not like spy. They just like I cannot believe a whole country is just like, yeah, it's fine. Yeah, there's just,
Yeah.
we have like all of the world's most dangerous animals here. Whatever. Like
um yeah, but maybe catch one of us or both of us, or maybe
Yeah,
not just any
catch the not just any book club trip to New
New
Zealand to
Zealand.
see Hobbiton.
Yeah, we're going to go on an adventure. But for now, you can follow us on Twitter. Or
Yeah,
is our nick?
follow us on Twitter at Not Just Any Pod. You can find information on this show as well as our other one, which is Not Just Any RPG. So if you're interested in tabletop role playing
Which you should
games,
be if you like Lord of the
if you like
Rings,
Lord of the Rings, check that out. We're playing a homebrew D&D campaign right now.
made by yours
Um,
truly.
yeah, me.
Yes.
Yours truly,
Yeah, it means yourself.
yeah. Anyhow, uh, anyways, check out next week's episode, which is going to be fantasy books.
Yes.
I read the whole Witcher series.
I will be reading a Discworld book because I thought this was gonna
Yeah,
be I thought the Lord of the Rings was gonna be my pick, but like I found out like you can't, since the movies are so faithful, I can't
yeah,
exactly talk about
right.
them without separating the two. So it looks like I've got more reading to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
That's a
also Luke will be there reading, I believe, something from the
Brandon Sanderson.
Brandon
Cosmere?
Sanderson from the Stormlight archives, I
Yeah.
believe.
Wave Kings.
Yeah,
You could be reading Mistborn too.
something. He'll be reading
Something.
something.
Yeah. It might be our longest episode because of how much content we're going to be talking about. I think there might be part two, part three to that, of considering then how much Pierce really wants to talk about The Witcher. Speaking of that, we also have a TikTok now, not just any pod.
Yep, we do have a TikTok. That is true. Follow us there. It's I'm posting there instead of Justin. So if you don't like Justin's Twitter, you can find me on TikTok, I guess. But yeah,
Uh, it's been so long. I think this might be our longest episode yet. I think by no
probably.
contest. But anyways, goodbye, Prometheus.
Okay.